I was brought up with an image of justice being blind and these wonderful statues of justice with a blindfold around her head. But that's not how the sentencing councils see it. And this week, public trust in that principle of equality before the law was dealt a significant blow, and the Sentencing Council, an ostensibly independent body responsible for issuing guidelines to the courts in England and Wales, formally rejected a request by the Lord Chancellor Shabana Mahmood to revise the new pre-sentencing guidelines that, in the eyes of many, introduces the de facto two-tier justice system. The controversy lies in the Council's recommendation that courts usually obtain pre-sentencing reports for offenders from ethnic, cultural or faith minority backgrounds before imposing a custodial sentence. And the aim, according to the Council, is not to prescribe differential sentencing, but to equip judges with fuller contextual information about cohorts they may know less about. Yet to many, this backs of well-intentioned paternalism veering into inequity. A two-tier system. Mahmood, herself of ethnic minority heritage, has therefore expressed what can only be described as righteous fury, and in her letter to the Council she's accused it of fostering differential treatment based on race, culture or religion, an approach she has branded corrosive and an erosion of the public's faith in the justice system. And her indignation is not just political theatre. It's rooted in a profound constitutional principle, equality under the law. And the Sentencing Council's response has nevertheless been defiant. Lord Justice William Davis, its chair, insisted that the guidelines would not be revised. He claimed that judges must do all they can to avoid a difference in outcome based on ethnicity, and that providing additional context is essential to ensuring fairness, not undermine it. And herein lies the central tension. What one party sees as a necessary nuance, the other perceives as pernicious disparity. So there's absolutely a mountain of data evidencing disparity in sentencing outcomes. Ethnic minority defendants, especially black and Asian men, are disproportionately more likely to receive custodial sentences and longer terms for similar offences than their white counterparts. And addressing this imbalance should certainly be a priority, but the method must not itself entrench inequality. And what the Council proposes may inadvertently reinforce the belief that the justice system favours or penalises based on race, creed, or background. Once public confidence in blind justice is lost, it's fiendishly difficult to restore. It's therefore unsurprising that Mahmood has placed all options on the table, she says. That's an expression I think she's got from Keir Starmer, including legislation to override the Council's decision. And in doing so, she's received rare cross-party support. Even Kemi Badenoch, hardly a political fellow traveller, has backed legislative change to end what she terms as looming two-tier justice model, and I'm sure reform will leap on this bandwagon. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick went further, accusing the Council of enshrining bias against, in his words, Christians and straight white men. A rhetorical overreach perhaps, but it demonstrates how politically radioactive this issue has become. And this is more than a technical squabble over sentencing protocols. It's a proxy war for larger debates about identity, impartiality, and the independence of quongos. And the Sentencing Council, an unelected body, now stands accused by voices on both the left and the right of policy making beyond its remit. And the risk is that this becomes yet another example of bureaucratic overreach, frustrating the will of a democratically accountable government. And, I want to be generous to the Council. It does not advocate differential outcomes. It advocates differential process. But in law, process can become everything. Pre-sentencing reports influence judicial discretion. If some defendants are considered more in need of contextualization than others, based on a group identity that by definition sets up an equal process, and we're looking at people who are being treated differently, aren't we? The court is not a place for the soft sociology of assumptions. It's a place where the principle of one rule for all must be upheld with clarity and consistency. There will be mitigating circumstances. That's a different matter. The Council now offers to clarify the language in the guidelines, but clarification is not correction, and this is a classic institutional response: modify the optics, not the substance. What should happen next? Mahmood and Starmer must decide whether to legislate, and if so, how. Do they merely remove the specific ethnic cohort clause? Do they strip back the Council's remit entirely? With Starmer in charge, we ought to be on solid ground because Starmer has a background in law. Or, more radically, should the government consider a full review of judicial independence in the context of sentencing discretion? These are serious constitutional questions, and they cannot be ducked with platitudes. And they certainly shouldn't be pushed into the long grass. We're witnessing a rare consensus across political lines, though for different reasons, that the Sentencing Council's new guidance risks damaging the foundational premise of British justice. Equality before the law cannot be a slogan. It must be structurally embedded and rigorously defended. And a justice system that purports to tailor its approach to individuals must do so on the basis of need, not identity. Otherwise, we edge ever closer to what critics call a two-tier justice system, a system where who you are trumps what you did. And that, in any society that calls itself free and fair, must be intolerable.